Hello, welcome to this brief tutorial on identifying morphemes using Etymonline. My name is Michelle Elia. I'm an assistant professor at Marietta College, and today I'm going to guide you through this process. Let's start with why I created this tutorial. We know that teaching morphology improves word recognition, and we know that it improves our students' vocabulary knowledge. Morphology is incredibly powerful. And we know that when we teach morphological awareness or we build morphological awareness, our students can apply that knowledge of morphology to new words that they encounter and they've never been taught. But in order to build morphological awareness as teachers, we need to know the morphemes that we're teaching to our students in the vocabulary and in the words that we're teaching daily. So that brings me to the most frequently asked question I receive. How can I determine the morphemes in words? And I usually tell teachers, just refer to Etymonline, a fantastic free resource. But it's also one that can be a little bit challenging, especially if we don't have a whole lot of background knowledge on this topic. So to aid in this endeavor, I created 3 sort of simple steps in order to navigate Etymonline. Listen, Etymonline is not perfect or easy to use, but neither is our incredibly complex language. It is, though, a really fantastic tool once you get comfortable with it. So step number 1, remove the affixes. And I'm not saying all the affixes. Let's start with just the ones you know. Let's remove those so that we can get a slightly smaller word, that which we refer to as a stem, which is a morpheme or morphemes that can kind of stand alone. So then we're going to plug that stem into Etymonline. And last but not least, we're going to look for the links and the plus signs. Let me show you an example. So step number 1, remove affixes. And by that, I'm not saying you're going to remove them all. We're going to start with any affix that you might know, the ones that you're really comfortable with to get us to a stem that can stand alone. So let's think about this particular word, perceiving. If I wanted to plug this into Etymonline, I could plug it in just the way it is, but there's going to be a couple extra clicks involved. Or I can remove that ing and be left with perceive. Why would I do that? Well, I already know that that ing suffix is a past tense verb suffix. It's one I'm pretty familiar with, so I don't need to plug it into Etymonline to find out the meaning. I already know what that morpheme means. So I usually peel off those frequently used inflectional suffixes, ing, plural, s, ed, es, plural. Those ones I'll kind of take off at the start before I plug any word into Etymonline. Another helpful list comes to us from the fabulous research of Holly Lane and her colleagues in this fantastic and fascinating article on the most frequently used high utility morphemes for instruction. So if you know the meanings of any of these morphemes, you could peel one of these prefixes or suffixes off, or simply just recognize their meaning up front when you go to plug that word into Etymonline. So this is the top 10 list, so to speak, of prefixes and suffixes from this wonderful list of morpheme frequency in academic words by Holly Lane et al. So my next step is put that stem into Etymonline. I'm going to plug it in, and then I should see the language of origin and a brief definition of the word. So once again, with my word perceive, I plugged it into Etymonline, and this is what I got. I tend to focus on the language of origin because I'm always fascinated and interested in that. And I speculated that perceive was probably French simply because I had that soft C. But now here we see that this is a word from Old French, and that also means it's from Latin as well. So we've kind of got that information, a little validation, which is always good. And then we can look and see the meaning of the word. Now, of course, I always back this up with things like dictionary.com and other tools to provide the best student-friendly definition. Then step 3 says to look for the links and the plus sign. I'm always looking for that plus sign. So the red hyperlinks tell us where we might need to keep on clicking in order to find new information. But the plus sign is where I can look and find those morphemes. So step 3, the last step, look for the links and the plus signs. So once again, I'll go back to perceive. And here I can see I've got a plus sign right here. and per meaning thoroughly. And there is a hyperlink to even click on to learn more about per, that prefix per, which means thoroughly. I could click there, but I kind of see it already defined for me. And then I've got my Latin root, right? Compare, to grasp, take. So I'm able to really learn right here most of the morphemes that I need. I already knew the ing, and now I've got my prefix, per, and then I've got my root, and this is the Latin root. So obviously we're not spelling it this way in the particular word. So I know that this Latin root was compare, but I know that I'm really thinking of it in terms of the base that we typically use in English, which is sieve. But we know that that base means to grasp or take. Now, fun fact, that particular base, sieve, is what we call a twin base, and its other version is sept. Practice my writing with my mouse here on the screen. There we go. So sieve and sept, we know actually are twin bases. They both have the same meaning. And once again, I can go to Etymonline to kind of see that and learn a little bit more. Now, to save myself some time, I already plugged in the word. The word was interception. So if I go back to step one, which was to peel off any affixes I know, well, I know that that ION in interception means that act or state of. So I'm going to peel it off, and I'm going to go right down here to intercept. And once again, I'm going to look for, I got the meaning of that word, and then I'm going to look and see, okay, I've got inter, which means between, and there's my red hyperlink if I wanted to click on that and get more information about inter. Which is that prefix that means between. And then we have here my Latin root, which is highly related to that. It's a combining form. So there's my Latin root. And it is a combining form of the one we just saw in perceive. So that is spelled, though, in our base as sept. So now we could see that sept and sieve were those twin bases, again, to take or to catch. So as we think of the word interception, and here I've got it on my dry erase board. If I wanted to teach my students the morphemes within it, well, we know that inter is between. We've got that ION, that act or state of, which also turns things into nouns. Turns this word into a noun. And then I've got my sept, which we know also goes with sieve, which is to catch or to take. Can also be to grasp. So we can now see those morphemes by following those steps. As I mentioned, they're not exactly that simple, but they are pretty helpful. Okay, let's try another one, shall we? I have some other words here. Let's look at constitution. So I was going to take the word constitution because that's something that we know we're often teaching in our social studies class, but I can pull off that ION. So I could have gone to constitution here, but then look at what it said, go to constitute. Well, so my step one is constitute. It is to take off that ION, which means the act or state of, leaving me with constitute. Step two, plug it into Etymonline, and here's what we get. I see the definition, and I see the language of origin, that it is, in fact, Latin. So there's my definition, and there's my language of origin. And then step three, I'm going to look for those red hyperlinks and the plus signs. So for constitute, I've got com, and con and com are chameleon prefixes, so meaning together. And again, if I wanted more information to know that, I could just click on com. It takes me to that, meaning with or together. There's my prefix. Now I can go back. So I've got together, and then I've got this Latin root. Remember, it is not the base that we typically see in our spelling, but it is the root. So I've got this Latin root here, and that's stitute, and it means to set. So to set with, is to constitute, and the act of setting with is the constitution, or to stand, or make, or be firm. And so we can kind of see, and I always tell my students that it's not a direct connection always to those morphemes. We've had a lot of time to change and adjust how we use them, but you can help make the connections between that and the common today's meaning and use of that particular word. So let's go back and review our 3 steps, and I'll clear up all that stuff on my slides here. The 3 steps, sort of simple steps to using Etymonline. Step 1, remove any prefixes or suffixes you already know. You should be left with the stem. Step 2, plug that stem into Etymonline, and then you'll see the language of origin and a brief definition. And then step 3, look for the red hyperlinks and the plus sign. That's where you're really going to dig into the good stuff and learn about those meanings of those individual morphemes. And remember, if you want to make any adjustments, just maybe even consider the prefixes or suffixes you already know. You don't necessarily have to peel them off, but you won't have to dig deeper because you already know those. So that's it. That's the 3 simple steps for using Etymonline, sort of. But I'm going to close with the best advice I've ever been given. And this advice comes to us from our dearly departed friend, William Van Cleve. And I love this. Perhaps one of the best things about morphological study is that you don't have to be or act like an expert. This is about exploring words with students, helping them uncover meanings and deepen their understanding, and in doing so, helping them develop word sense to explore words on their own. It's a win-win for everyone, and it will make your students better readers, writers, and thinkers. So in honor of William Van Cleve, I'm going to tell you, don't be an expert. That's okay. Learn and grow with your students. There's some really amazing resources to help you and your students to learn and grow. I've got so many of them that I use all the time, such as Morpheme Magic, Susan Heglin's book, Beneath the Surface of Words. Any of the resources by Marcia Henry are fantastic. So dig deeper, build your own knowledge while you're building that of your students. And you don't have to be an expert to do it. It's all about all of us growing together. Thanks so much for your time today, friends.